What does the life of a CIO look like in the truck industry? I don't think it's different than any other manufacturing industries, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that the operation is running. So certainly with the GenAI, things are changing significantly for everybody. As we are on the forefront of innovations on the truck side as Daimler Truck, we want to be it also on the IT side. Data is, for me, the key asset of a company. And the data gives you the power to be intelligent as a company. And you can create something which is completely new. It's the most exciting time at the moment because I think it's a real game changer. It's a real change in what is coming. IT as a function needs to step up and take the control and the accountability for that, because there is nobody else who can do it from my point of view. And we just need to do it and then really create these opportunities for the future.
Welcome to the new automation mindset, where AI, automation, and integration come together. I'm your host, Markus Zirn, and as Chief Strategy Officer and part of the founding executive team at Workato, it is my mission to find these top innovators in AI, automation, and integration and share their journeys with all of you. Today, I have with me Lutz Beck. He's the CIO of Daimler Trucks North America. And Lutz has spent his entire career in automotive, I think the last 12 years in the truck industry. First as the CIO of Mitsubishi Fuso in Japan, and now CIO of Daimler Truck North America. And so, look, in trucks, quite a bit of complexity. These trucks, they're engineered to order. Truck is different from a car, right? It's a business asset, so the uptime matters almost like an airplane. I think also different from cars. It's a very regional industry, regional brands. I think trucks look different on different continents. And so traditional brands, legacy, IT, and things like, there's mainframe still, kind of decades old IT system, and it's a common challenge. So look, today I'm really excited actually to have Lutz here and learn how something as modern as generative AI can have an impact on a kind of, let's say, traditional industry like trucks. What impact really does this have for Lutz, and in what ways can it maybe help accelerate his modernization efforts that he has underway? So fascinating topic. So Lutz, let's start with maybe just helping us understand a little bit better what the truck industry looks like. What was your experience at Fuso there in Japan, and now at Daimler Trucks? And if you give us a view into the day of a CIO in a truck company. What does that look like?
Well, morning from my side, Markus. So it's interesting. Thanks for having me. But interesting question, right? What does the life of a CIO look like in the truck industry? I don't think it's so much of different than any other manufacturing industries, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that the operation is running, right? And that everything goes smoothly during the day so that everybody within the company can work. What is certainly the small piece on top of everything is that we have quite a number of trucks in operations, as you call it, right? And they are on the street every single day. And they are, as you rightly said, uptime is a key element for us. So we need to make sure also with everything we're doing that the trucks are nowadays running, right? At the end of the day, as we all know nowadays, it's essential industry, because without trucks, nothing is moving, right? And without the truck driver, who is basically constantly in operations, it's also not moving. So that's the big thing. What was changing, maybe I would say 10 to 15 years back, because then the product was suddenly connected. So suddenly we were collecting a lot of data from the trucks during operations. And we were coming up, of course, with the concept of uptime, right? So 24/7 is, of course, the ideal situation which you have on a truck. And that's exactly what we're looking at now, that beside the operation of, let me say, the manufacturing, the engineering, and everything what is around the truck, one important piece is, of course, also that we are monitoring the trucks in operation and see if there is anything going on where we can do something either via flash and over the air, or we can do something and inform basically the customers. We have some service now event or service soon event. And this is certainly a big change, which was coming, I would say, 10, 12 years back, right? Where we suddenly started to really connect and collect a lot of data. And that's the big thing where we certainly involved now as well. And then, of course, with all the changes which we have on the technology front, and I think I'm like other CIOs here, we are trying to modernize. We're trying to modernize and simplify and take complexity out of historically grown processes, which are certainly in there. And one big topic is for us, of course, when you look at Daimler Truck as a global company, we have different brands. So we have the Freightliner Western Star brand here, right? We have Mercedes-Benz trucks in Europe and some parts of the world. And then you have Mitsubishi Fuso and Bharat-Benz trucks in Asia. So, and this is not a historically grown company where you say, I just decided to have different brands. So this company was coming together, we bought, we merged, and so on. And of course, when you look at my experience back in Japan, this was a Mitsubishi company, and we were basically taking it over and renaming it also in Daimler Truck Asia with Bharat-Benz together. And there was a lot of legacy also from the Mitsubishi world, which we needed to replace, where we needed to start transformation and say, first of all, bring it back into the Daimler Truck world, right? Because we have, of course, global systems as well working. And then we needed to do also certain elements where we said, hey, this is old legacy. This is not good for our doing. So we replaced, in my turn there, 6 years in Japan. We did a lot of transformation and reshaped the whole application landscape, build it up also what was called the data analytics at that point of time, right? Big data was still a big topic. Now, of course, it's still data is the topic, but in a different way. And that's the same thing for here, right? I mean, this industry is known for a lot of innovations, but on the other side, we also needed to look at now that we keep up with our backend, that we do something here. And when you look, I mean, this was a surprising element for me also when I was coming to US, right? So there was a lot of innovative stuff which we had in place, right? And we have, for instance, a e-commerce platform, which is certainly a very innovative topic, which we put in place in less than a year, actually. But then you still have some kind of legacy. And the legacy is something which is there, which is keeping all the old processes. And now we need to look, because, I mean, you mentioned that GenAI or automation is a huge topic, but, automating complex processes doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. So we need to reshape, we need to reimagine and re-engineer the processes now to make sure that we can really apply these new technologies also to our benefit so that we are creating value. And that's something which is currently on the way. We do that by doing also innovative stuff in the front end with the trucks. So, and that's how it looks like, right? And then, of course, you have topics, connectivity, I mentioned already. Then you have topics which we somehow involve, but we have a partner who's doing that for us, Torque. It's the autonomous topic, right? Which is coming as well. But nevertheless, we need to look into, is there anything on our side? And then, of course, e-mobility plays a role here as well, which is a big topic. And also here we need to be up to do things for the company to say, okay, how can we do it? How can that look like, with the charging, with all the stuff, what you need to provide to a customer. So it's a quite busy time, but it's a very interesting time because I think we are currently at I would not call it an industrial revolution, but certainly with the Gen AI, things are changing significantly for everybody. And as we are on the forefront of innovations on the truck side as Daimler Truck, we want to be it also on the IT side.
Yeah, look, it seems to be like kind of challenging for the CIO, right? So you have, I mean, we talked about electrification, autonomous driving, that whole connected fleet thing at the front end. And then at the back end, you got traditionally grown mainframe systems and kind of connecting the two. And then in the middle, I guess you got the business processes, which I imagine in an industry like trucks, it's probably more like crafts, like make to order. This is not like the, I don't know, Lean Six Sigma kind of just to push out all the products. I mean, it seems like it's a lot more kind of engineering driven, if that makes sense. How do you use? I mean, you talked a little bit about reducing complexity, but what are the tools that you have at your disposal, or how do you make sense of that? It seems to be really, really challenging.
I mean, in a way, I think all our jobs in IT are challenging at the moment, right? With everything what is coming and explaining. Second thing, of course, what was certainly changing is also the role of IT in general over the last couple of years, because at the end of the day, we are more and more coming into this role of a change agent. So because we do a lot with technology, and I feel, even now with everything what is there, when you look at automation, when you look at data, so there is much more opportunities than we had, let's say, 5 to 10 years back. Now, when you look at the legacy, and this is a thing what you see, and I mean, this is the easiest portion. When you look at it, replacing a mainframe would have been done in the past mainly with ERP systems, right? Or some kind of SaaS solutions at the beginning, right? Now, if you look at it now, I think we have a much further opportunity now. We don't necessarily need to replace everything with ERP systems and say, hey, we need to do that. No, we can actually look into automation tools like Workato, like other tools as well, right? We can look at our data, and then we can say, okay, what can we do actually with it? And where do we need to have still certain, I would call it ERP as a SaaS, right, solutions, and where, in which traditional topics we actually can replace that, because we do not need to have this high transactional volume. We have a different thing, and you can do it based on your data. And that's I think a good opportunity now, because looking at the legacy and looking what you would spend to replace a mainframe, especially because I mean, over the years, the mainframes were optimized also in terms of budget, right? So you just add, and now I have a lot of opportunities more with the tools which are in play to do it in a way which is unseen yet, right? And this is exactly this might be a bit of a challenge, because you need to look at the architectures. You need to look at how you build architectures nowadays in a sense that it's working. And then, of course, what we relearn, I think, in the industry totally is how to think in processes, because, we were so used that everything was running somehow. So we forgot what is the real process. So this simplification, radical simplification of processes is a must as well. And this is something which we were looking at how we can do it, because at the end also there is a mindset shift from when we had in the past build topics, or we did things out of a more OEM view. Now we shift completely to the customer view and to the dealer view, because this is the very important topic. And it's not that we are optimizing ourselves. At the end of the day, you want to create value for the customer, and this value needs to be seen. So you need to basically take your glasses off and say, now I'm looking to everything from a customer perspective, and how I can drive operational efficiency for the customer, and how I can help with my operational efficiency, actually also our dealer or customers. And this is exactly the topic which is there. So for me, I don't think it's a challenge. I think it's a great opportunity at the moment, when you look at all the topics which we have in terms of data and automation, to do something in a different way. And then, of course, do we have a chance, Markus? We don't have a chance. We need to move, right? Because if I look around, and I mean, I was in Japan, as you know. I mean, Japan is having one of the aging societies in the world, right? So they do a lot of topics for the aging society. On the other side, you also need to say the aging society will go out on the job at a certain point, right? And I mean, there is discussions all over the world, and you need to look at what you do, what you can do, what you can automate, and bring people also in higher value adding topics for the company. I think it's nothing bad, because there is a great opportunity for everybody to upskill and to do something else. But as we did it over years and years and decades in the production, if you look at it, when you look high volume production like cars, right? All these principles, lean principles, the Toyota principles, everything was coming in there. And of course, this was also coming to the truck industry. But we did a lot of automation in the production, and now it's about the time to do the automation and GenAI also in the other areas. And this is a great opportunity to rebuild a company in a completely different way.
First of all, I just love it. Two Germans here being optimistic together early in the morning. That's fantastic. But look, I feel the same way. I mean, we had talked about, you mentioned that some of your systems, like mainframe systems, because of that engineer to order and so on, they almost felt to you like a competitive advantage, right? Compared to the standard ERP. And I mean, of course, there are certain areas like finance, HR, and so on. Like, why wouldn't you do anything but like standard system? That makes sense. But then there's other areas where I think, maybe the standard ERP system isn't the right thing, especially for an industry that maybe moves and operates differently. So at the same time, I'm also looking back. I don't know how that was at Fuso, Daimler Trucks. Like the last 10 years, I would say there was this big wave of RPA, of automation, but automation in kind of like, I don't know, I hope I'm not offending anyone, but almost like a little bit of a dumb way. Like, I mean, it's basically like taking whatever you did and basically without rethinking it, just like taking the people out and putting some kind of software in. I mean, it was more for the high volume. And it actually, I think the one thing maybe most importantly, it didn't really leverage data that was available. It was just take a standard process and, basically automated it like a factory robot. I think now it feels to me like these AI agents give us a whole new opportunity. And I think data also gives us an opportunity to reimagine, as you said, these processes, maybe make them, make them different, make them better, make them simpler. How do you think about data and how this will all, is that another kind of superpower that maybe we under leverage at the moment?
Yeah, I think there's two things, right? First, when you look back, as you said, RPA was the big thing, right? And of course, everybody was working on that, and I always have a feeling that RPA was not really flying. I need to, from my side, I think when I look around a bit, due to the fact that it was tightly coupled to the point of you reduce the headcounts. Because you automate, as you said, you automate whatever is there, but you reduce the headcount, right? This is like a bit the BPO topics, business process outsourcing topics, which were in the play as well. And some companies were doing it with BPO, the other ones were doing it with RPA, right? Depends. Some were using a bit more technology. The other ones have said, hey, I'm doing a BPO center on the Philippines or where it is, right? And got the leverage of the components there. But at the end, it was not for us at least, it was flying in a certain area, but not really in a certain area. Now, when you look at data, this was coming up, of course, as well as we all know. I mean, when did this big topic start? Business intelligence, early 2000, right? Somehow was coming more and more in the topics, and then suddenly it moved into the big data, and everybody was working on data lakes, and everybody has a data lake, whatever. The funny thing is, we all know about the power of the data. I think there is no question about it. But I think we spend not enough time on the data management itself and see what is there, because when you look at it, what is the key element now, especially when you look also at the GenAI and the agents, right, is actually the quality of data. And the quality of data is still, for me, a big question mark, right? I do hope always that you have an agent which can check the quality of the data as well, because this will certainly be a key element for it. But so, and this is what we're doing here as well. We basically have one part where we work more on the data management portion, right? Where we need to look at, so what can you do with the data? How is the data governed? Who is the owner of the data? Who need to make sure that the quality is there, and so on. And then you have everything about the analytics or the Gen AI or the agents, because I do believe there is a huge opportunity coming for us with the agents, especially to do certain elements. But who is making sure that every data you are using and every agent which is in the house, because at the end of the day, I mean, I just saw yesterday another agent coming across, right? So there is so much of agents coming suddenly, they popping all over, they're popping up, right? And you basically think of, hey, they are all running around there. So now who is having, what is, I don't like the word in a sense, but what is the control? Because at the end of the day, I need to make sure that confidential data, take a very easy example, that confidential data out of engineering is not going out in any agents which are public, because at the end of the day, otherwise I lose my data. So I need to run it in a different way. So the architecture piece is a big piece now, where we need to think of how we can build that and how we can use agents, because everybody, from my point of view, you, me, in 1 year latest, we will have agents doing some jobs for us. They will run certain elements of our jobs, first in the back end and then more in the front end, right? Where you can give them, and you might have an agent and say, hey, I want to go to holidays. This is my key topics, which I have 5 keywords. I give it to an agent, and the agent search itself throws everything out for you and says to you, okay, look, this is your options, this is the scenarios, this is the price tag. So, and then it's coming to the point that you say, hey, just book here, just give me a go and I'll book it for you. So this is all coming, but this is data which is used. So the power of data is enormous. For me, it's an enormous power what we have, and this is the power on which we are sitting also, this data power which is there. But you need to work with it. You need to know, understand it. You need to know what is there. And you need to, in a certain way, govern it and apply also some kind of what I would call now ethical concepts in the usage of the data, because this is a very important thing to get it. The data will help us to reduce complexity enormously. The data will help us to drive new business opportunities, new revenue models, all that kind of things. I'm totally convinced. I mean, you know that there was a saying, data is the new oil. I don't know, right? I think data is, for me, the key asset of a company, and the data gives you the power to be intelligent as a company, right? And you just need to learn to use it. And now with the new technologies coming up, I think we have, in the meanwhile, now the technology and the tools in a combination with some other tools. If you use that correctly, you have an enormous power, and you can create something which is completely new.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Look, I believe if you go 10 years back, you mentioned started in 2000, we started doing analytics and so on. I would say 10 years, even 5 years back, I would have said, the challenge with data is we now have it in data warehouses. You're right, quality is a continuous challenge. I think it always will be. You have to work on it all the time. But I do think that we had it in BI tools. The one thing we didn't have is we often didn't have it operationalized. I think it was always hard. Maybe it was because of these ERP systems that bringing it back into the process, actually using it naturally, I didn't see that much. I do think with the AI agents, that's changing. Because the AI agents, they can bring that back into the process. I think just like you, I believe you also started your career looking at business processes just like I did. And I always thought, it was a frustrating time for me back then because I learned how hard it is really, thinking in business processes. I mean, for some people, it's just really challenging, and people almost like to do without processes if they can. But I think AI agents are changing that again. It's now, I mean, we see some systems here at Workato where, you have multiple agents collaborating with each other, and then you get a process without actually having to define it step by step. I think it's actually a really, really positive step forward. It will help us kind of get to better processes if we want it or not. But I think fundamentally what it comes down, the data is, as you said, so powerful because it's really, I mean, it's the basis of all of this. I mean, we can break through operationalizing it, the data, we can get the business processes done. But I think at the end, we need quality data and probably also quality kind of knowledge and requirements, because that's also, if you have like policy documents and maybe they don't document unstructured data, right? That doesn't give you the right instructions. Also, the agents will go rogue with that. I mean, you can't blame them for it, right?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think the agents are giving us a huge opportunity to do things in a different way. And you see it also. I mean, look for IT itself. It's a huge element because at the end of the day, I mean, and now we're coming also from a programming portion, right? Now, this was changing significantly over the last years as well, right? When I was still at university, there were still program languages where you said, oh, this is really hard to understand. There was not much of a help. There was really, I mean, I know, we had we had tests there partially where I said, oh, this is a bit heavy, right? So you needed really to understand. And of course you were coming in, but nowadays, and I had a developer once, I still remember on a project, he was working day and night also to look at the bugs, look at everything. Now, look at it. I mean, there is autocorrect. There is other things on your code, right, which you can do. And now you let the agents write the code, right? So this is the thing what is coming. And this is coming in all the different areas. So IT is one area where you certainly can have a lot of help with it, right? You just need to orchestrate. And as you said, Workato or other tools can go on that one already. You give some input and then if we throw out the workflow or whatever is needed to do certain elements. The second thing is when you look at certain other topics, right? And IT, managed service, remember? The thing where we moved a lot of IT work, for instance, to India, yeah? Because there was, of course, more work coming, but there was other things as well. And then you were having a help desk in India where people were sitting, they were called or you could online. So now you're replacing a lot of this topic with the agents. We just recently did something on our help desk for the customer service, right? Where we have AI components, GenAI components running now, helping our customers. And this is the thing what you need to have, because at the end of the day, you want to create a lot of value for the customers. So you need to say, For them, the value is I need the information, I need it in a certain situation, I need it fast. So, and this is going now with the agents. They take a lot of this workload away. And then the real difficult cases or complex cases, you still have a person doing there, but this is helpful because they are not overwhelmed with all the other things now. So a lot of the normal questions go away. And that's exactly what you need to look at. And I think by doing that, of course, the agents will learn more and more. And now, as you mentioned, also is coming the combination of agents. So for us at the moment is the question, and this is a key architectural decision, of course, to say, okay, which is the leading agent? So my take on it is actually that I say I will have a leading agent, and the leading agent will trigger all the other agents, right? So that these processes are mostly automated in a certain sense via agents, and they communicate with each other. And that's where the data is coming into play again, because if you have wrong data or the quality of the data, so the agents will just produce what is there because they're still in a learning phase, right? At a certain point, hopefully it comes out that they say, hey, there is something with this data because it cannot be correct when they do have enough data coming. But this is something where we still need to work on. And now it's coming exactly the topic with the legacy, which we had at the beginning of the talk as well. Mainframes were a great topic, and they cover a lot of processes, but they were also allowing, Marcus, they were allowing a lot of flaws in the data because you were able to do whatever you wanted to do. Then there were coming the ERP systems. They were a bit more strict with the data. So they were helping to the business intelligence, right? And then all of this. But this is exactly what we need to look. So our focus is a lot on the data management now, because I need to make sure that the quality of the data is there so that I have a certain control over the output of the data as well, that I say, hey, yeah, this is correct. Because especially when you have agents running, if I have agents running in my development, I will catch it at a certain point because there is a quality control, there is a things which is there to make sure that it's there. But if you use it for customer service, so the agent is your first entry point. That's a huge thing, and you see that also. I mean, all the airlines, they have their bots, right? When you can do and you see, but they go fast into, okay, you get an agent, right? You have not an agent in a sense of an AI agent, you get a real person in there. And that's exactly, I do believe, because it's very difficult still in terms of the quality of the data to do that. But we will come there. I'm pretty sure this is not taking a long time. This will be pretty fast that we have that, and that you have the qualitative output which you want to have for a customer. And then you say, let the agents run. And then this is a combination of all the other agents. And what I want is, of course, to make it for colleagues in the company as easy as possible. So they need to have just one agent and they can deal with everything else, right? If you give too much, then at the end of the day, you don't know anymore what agent you're using. So we need to have an architecture which is a bit seamless in a certain sense. And that will be interesting to see now how we can do it and how the backend integration runs then. My take is also that I would like to use agents for the backend cleanup, if you want to call that as such, right? That I say, let's look into if we can deal with an agent here rather than we do it. And of course, we have worked there as an HR system right now here in the US, and we have a help desk. Now, I think a lot of work can be done by an agent as well. And the people have their app they can look into, but if they have a question, you can do an agent, right? And that's things where you can really improve the processes also and take complexity out. So make it a bit more easy for the user or for whoever is working with you, for the customer, for the dealer, to make sure that you can do that. So this will be, for me, I think it's a great opportunity now to go in there I'm also don't know yet all the things. So we're talking with a lot of companies. We're learning from a lot of companies, but the topic is, I mean, if you look at some of these tech companies, right, and the numbers they are having in terms of manpower for specific tasks, I mean, they are highly optimized because they're using all these technologies, and that's of course a target for us as well, to make sure that we can optimize, because we need the manpower in more or higher value adding topics for the company, right? So it's not that you say, no, I don't need it. No, you need to upskill, of course, you need to make sure that this is there, but there is a lot of topics which we have to deal with, and I think I need more manpower in there rather than in this easy stuff. So that will be a big chance now to move that into a different level.
So what I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm interpreting this right here, is I think there's a new agility that's coming with these agents. Probably, I mean, you referred to some of this prior outsourcing of IT that also happened. We see with a good number of customers that they're actually insourcing back. I think there's a change in that. I think you did refer to the simplification also of building processes with these agents. So at the front end, so I think there's probably more of a, I don't know, composability of things where you're putting things together. You're also not just, in a way, there's flexibility, more flexibility than before, because it's easier to stitch these things together. But then probably more work needed at the foundation level, at the data. And so on, to get that right. Because once that's right at the bottom, then you can much more quicker build things up on the top. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think I mean, and we saw that. If you look back at the big data times, right? Everybody was so involved into, oh, we need to create data lakes. We need to have that. We need to have one data lake in the world, a global data lake. We need to do all of that. But collecting the data out of the sources and putting that in a data lake. Okay. Look at it today. What is it? What is it worth? Not much. Because you didn't add a structure. You didn't add a lot of topics in there. You said, okay, I can do unstructured data, structured data. I could use all of that. But at the end of the day, does it help? Did we generate a lot of output? Yeah, you had use cases where you had certain analytics use cases, and there is more and more coming. Yeah, but this was still a lot of work. And I do believe when you set that up correctly now, that you say, hey, I have a clear understanding on my data management. I know about data provisioning. I know about data quality. I know about data governance. I know about ownership of data. And I know, especially also in terms of security, what is needed, right? Then you can start really using this agent in a complete different way. And then you can feed in a certain way, certain elements. So for me, there is a lot of opportunities now to do it. And we're learning as we go. And this is good. The pace is faster, right? And in that terms, you might be right. IT is challenging at the moment because the dynamics are there, and it's not more, the cycles are not more, oh, now we have a cycle 5 years or whatever. So it's going faster. And now you have also more, as I would call it, citizen technologists, right? You have people who have a better understanding of it. And everybody brings, they have their private phones or whatever, and they have agents because they want to have a help on that one. And then they say, hey, this agent is actually good for me. It's helping me in certain elements. I want to use that in the office as well. And I need to say sometimes, no, you cannot use it, because you need to look at the terms and conditions. You need to look how to use it, because, I mean, what is the key element of that these agents are working is the data. Now, if they train their models with our data, which is maybe sensitive data, then you have suddenly a problem, right? Or confidential data. So the data management piece is a big one for me, and we really have a key focus on that one. But on parallel, of course, I'm pushing the team to get more and more agents in, right? doing agents. I mean, we have currently a thing ongoing that we say, hey, can we have some kind of a personal agent, so that I have my agent that's running with me every single day, gets everything what I'll do and helps me with emails, with all those kind of topics what you have, right? And then by doing that, I generate a lot of knowledge from the people, because a lot of knowledge sits here, right? And now we can do that, and I'm not scared of it. That's because this is helping me, and actually this is helping me in a big way, because we also notice, that the days are getting longer again after the pandemic. Yeah, it was a bit, it was this immediate slowdown, and then it was a slow ramp up, but now it's coming even more than before, right? And so you need this help, because I'm happy if I have an agent which is taking me 2 hours out of my time a day, right? This would be fantastic. I'm also asking. I asked my teams also, could I not have an avatar or something which is running meetings for me? Yeah, so that I can focus on certain elements, right? Because some meetings you might not need to be in there, right? Now with the Copilot, for instance, is giving you a huge opportunity. You record the meetings and you get your summary, and sometimes this is enough. You don't need 20 people in a meeting. There was always big meetings, 20 people, 10 people, 15 people, whatever, and some of them were just sitting there for a very specific moment or information. Now they don't need to go in this meeting anymore. They can look at the recording. They can either do a summary of the recording, say, oh, this is the key element which I wanted. Okay, thank you very much. So this is very efficient, and this is the operational efficiency we actually need. So for me, it's a great thing. But as you said, data is the key for it, that it works at the end of the day.
Mm. It also feels, I mean, look, I sometimes look at business applications as simple stuff like HR. Like, for example, I do a lot of recruiting. I do a lot of interviews. And I've always prompted by the HR software then later to summarize, what I thought and all of this. And it's you have your calendar laid out. You rarely find the time to really focus on that. Where at the same time you go like, well, I mean, a lot of these calls are recorded. An agent could actually summarize this, and so you make it easier for you to get the data back in. CRM systems, salespeople. I mean, the one thing that they hate the most is like going and putting all the data into CRM, where actually a lot of it is captured. Actually, they wouldn't have to put it in if we were efficient about it. There's probably, my sense, I think it comes back down to this whole idea that data is so important, and we can improve a lot around the data, how we efficiently collect it without putting burdens on people, how we, as you said, make sure that the quality is right, how I think operationalizing it through the agent, it'll happen anyway. But yeah, I mean, look, this is fascinating. I'm not sure if you realize, but you have the book there behind you. I think we talked about all the areas. We talked about process, which I think was so important. We talked about reimagining in a way that not just automating as it is, but making it easier, making it better. I think that's important. We talked a little bit about also federating or democratizing the IT onto people. I do think that low code technology, or kind of driving IT out from a central team into more like everyone being part of it. I think there's still a lot to be done. I think the one thing I realize, the data is something that maybe there should be another chapter in the book in version 2 around the data and how that is so critical for everything that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it is. It is. There is so much of opportunities, and I think you mentioned that HR, right? There is a lot of companies, they're already using agents to sort out all the applications and everything. I still think it's and there is also this videos all over you can find where people basically going into a meeting and present themselves and have the GenAI or using whatever is possible there. I think it will stop at a certain point because you realize if it's done by somebody who is doing or not, but the flaws will go, or it will merge a bit in a certain way also, because at the end of the day, you're right. We need all these technology savvy people who are able to do that, because they need this efficiency in working in a certain sense. And this is the key element which we have to do. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, I was also, when all these topics were coming up, I was also more looking into, the analytics, which kind of use cases, what can you do, whatever. But then slowly we had some kind of a project which is called records management. We looked at the data and then we saw what is actually there. And then I said, okay, we need to focus on that one. So because you need to have this control in a certain sense on the data management. We split that now, especially because I want to have one person responsible for data provisioning, making sure that everything is taken care of. And then you need to tell and educate the colleagues as well, and tell the people, okay, how can you use, what can you not use? Because at the end of the day, there is tools out there. They say, hey, if you give your data, I'll train my models with your data, and then you lose the rights on the data in a certain sense. So we need to look into all of this that is working. But for me, it's the most exciting time at the moment, because I think it's a real game changer. It's a real change in what is coming. We had all these waves in IT, but this was more evolution, right? Now I think we're at the stage of a revolution, which is giving us an opportunity to do something completely different. And IT as a function needs to step up and take the control and the accountability for that, because there is nobody else who can do it from my point of view. And we just need to do it and then really create these opportunities for the future.
Look, this was fascinating, just as I expected, to be honest. But I think you said it really well. The way I put it is kind of, if you think like consumer retail or like online retail, I think the big moment, the big revolution was like the internet, like 20 years ago. I think for business processes in an industry where there's more complexity than consumer retail and so on, I do think the revolution is happening right now for IT. I think these AI agents, I mean, you alluded to kind of what it can do, how it changes the architecture of how you're thinking about your systems together. I think you highlighted how it might actually change how we thought about insourcing, outsourcing, all of these kind of things. I think you also highlighted how a phenomenal opportunity for more flexibility and agility going forward. And then we talked about how data is so crucial for all of this to work well. So Lutz, thank you so much for spending time here with us. I have a feeling this is going to be really, really helpful for the audience. So thank you.
I hope so. Yeah. Thank you very much as well for the invite.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Please make sure to rate today's episode, leave us a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the show so you will never miss an episode. I'll see you next time.